talk through.
Okay,
All right.
sure.
So what we're gonna go over today, you guys, is a trip for 7 people. They're looking to visit Colombia. They are flying from a location that is based outside of the US. So I will have to evidently use a different supplier. But to get my baseline, I always use Funjet when possible. Just to get my ideas, general idea of like what pricing is going to cost, maybe some different hotels that I would want to recommend within the budget. So, how I would do that, do you know how many rooms they want, Rena?
Yeah, so it's basically 4 rooms because it's 3 couples and one additional person by themselves.
Okay, so 3 rooms. So, for this one, since they're flying outside of the US, I would do hotel and transfers. But
Sorry,
then
sorry, it's 4 rooms. 4 rooms. It's 3 couples and one person that's by themselves. So they want 3 rooms for the couples, and the person that's by themselves basically wants a room to themselves.
okay. So Colombia's done a little bit differently. It's actually not done on Vax. So I backtrack on that, but I want you guys to just know if this was like a Europe trip, if you could see on the left-hand side, right? I would click the multiple destinations, and then I would be able to choose my brand, which I would choose Funjet. And then as far as destination goes, if it's within the Hawaii, US, Mexico, Caribbean, Canada, hotel only, you could do that. Or you could break it down, right? Now, South America does not apply in this situation, which is why we're going to go a different route. But if you were doing like Europe, right, or any of the ones I mentioned up there, or Australia, you could do everything through here. Now, as far as South America goes, so let's go a different way. So I'm gonna get into my downtown travel just because I know this works. I've already been here. Um, you could do under the packages tab. However, I would not recommend that. So I would get an idea of uh, air tickets first. Do you know how many days they want in each location, Rena?
Yeah, so they specifically, they didn't tell me, but they told me what activities they wanted to do. So when I broke it down, it was basically like 2 full days in each city. It's 3 cities. It's Bogota, Medellin, and Cartagena.
Okay. So I would first, like, I would do a round trip, or no, I wouldn't do a round trip because they're not going back. So I would do and see, you could technically go on Google Flights, and I'll show you how to do this as far as like finding the flights first, because then you're going to look at the hotel dates based on the flights that you do, right? So if I go to Google Flights for a multi-origin that's not in Vax, the reason I like this is you can kind of look at the map and see the different prices. So I'll show you what that looks like. So you said they're flying out of Guam, right?
Guatemala.
Oh, Guatemala, sorry. All right. And then I know Bogota or Cartagena are usually the cheaper ones. What's the day they want to fly out?
Sorry. They prefer June, somewhere in June.
Okay, cool. So the nice thing about Google Flights is you could look at the calendar. Typically, some people say it's a myth. I still believe in it that Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the cheapest days to fly. However, you can see that sometimes there are cases where there's other dates that they could fly out, right? That is still just as cheap. So, okay, you want to do June. Let's see what June 2nd brings. One person. So okay, if we change it to 7 adults and we click search, this is the price for 7 people. So you could have them on June 2nd, a 9:40 or 9:25 a.m. arriving in Bogota, 7 people, total of 882 for that one way. right? So if you break that down, it's 100 some per person. Pretty good price. But if we play around, let's see what Cartagena is for that same date, right? So I'm not changing the date, but see, it goes up a little bit. And then if we do the last option, again, more expensive. So I would have them fly into Bogota. I would explain that the flights are a little bit less expensive, and Bogota over Cartagena or Bogota and Cartagena over Medellin. I don't know how to say it. I sound so white, but because these have stops, right? So it's an advantage for you guys to fly nonstop because you'll save time in the end, right?
Yeah.
Then I would probably have them do this one middle because they could fly out of Cartagena. So this is how I think, right? So then I would have them I would do then Bogota to that location. You said you have them there 2 full days. So would this put us at the 5th?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if we're looking at the 5th, like this is a steal. Inner city flights in Colombia specifically, super cheap, you guys. 7 people, the total is $282, right? So you're going to want to write that down. Now, some of these flights are like basic, right? So it doesn't include seats, it doesn't include baggage. That's something you're going to want to research and look into, especially if
Yeah,
you
so
have a budget.
sorry. So I already found out like they want take one bag each, checked in bag. So I know that I can't look for basic economy.
Okay.
And 3 of them are elderly. They're like over 60. So needs to be less time possible flying so they don't get too
Wonderful.
tired.
Wonderful. So yeah, these are all things that you can bring up and just be aware of when you guys are doing your research. All right, so then if we go to, how do you say it, Reina? Medellin? How do you say that?
Medellin.
Medellin?
Medellin. Yeah.
Medellin?
Yeah.
Okay. So Medellin to Cartagena, right? So would that mean the 8th?
Yes.
Okay. So then we would do the 8th. Again, 7 people in totality, nonstop, 368 total. Okay. So now we're going to look at the flight home. And would this be the 11th?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So sometimes you guys can find a nonstop, but you will have to play around with the dates. So I'll show you. Especially in Colombia, I know this. So this one is going to be the cheapest option on this date. Now let's see if we move it to the 12th, if our options change. Okay, price goes down a little bit, right? But the nonstop is still present or still not present. So let's do that Thursday. Okay, so it looks like no matter what, they're likely going to have to stop from Cartagena to Guatemala City. So if we were to take this to like the next level, right, the more advanced level, what you could do is you could change and see if this will give them a nonstop out for the date that they wanted. Or yeah, so It's not. There's no nonstop out of that one. And then let's see if Bogota is a nonstop at all. Okay, there is. So now that Bogota, we know they can fly in Bogota and Cartagena nonstop. They can fly out of Bogota nonstop. We might actually want to end their trip in Bogota. So we're going to have to rework it. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's kind of how I play around with the flights, right? And then normally before I even jump into the hotels for multi-city, I'll say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of the itinerary before I go ahead and shop hotels. I need your approval, A, on these dates, and B, on the number of days in each city. Once you approve that, I can go ahead and continue my initial search with hotels. But if we don't have dates not locked down, you personally are going to spend more time researching than you really need to. So lock down the itinerary first. Okay. If they're okay with that itinerary, right, then you can tell them you'll put together the flights and everything with those hotel options, but get that approval on the itinerary first and explain to them why you went with the itinerary that you did, right? So if I was to jump into what to do next, right, I would rework this. And then if I'm going back to the dates, I'm going to flip the trip, right? So I'm going to look at hotels now. But you can book flights on Downtown Travel, just so you guys know. Doesn't really matter where you book. It matters what supplier will accept the currency. Yvette, no, that was for 282 in totality. So total for 7 people. Very, very inexpensive to fly in between cities in South America. All right, so if I'm looking at hotels, I'm going to type in Cartagena and vicinity. What's the vibe that they're going for, Rena?
So 3-star hotel and up, basically.
Okay, and when they say 3-star, do you know what the environment's like? Because our 3-star is different than South America. And sometimes they can get like a nice 5-star for like what a 3-star would cost elsewhere.
Yeah, so they want something that's clean, something not too close to it. I know Cartagena can be quite a party city. So
Okay.
something that's not too close to too much party because they're like an older group.
Yep. All right. So we're going to add the rooms here. Because you want to make sure if you're researching, you have the number of rooms available that you need. Group travel, you guys, doesn't really apply to this because I think the max you can add is 4. But let's play around with Cartagena. Something I would also do while these are coming up is I would do a little research based on your clients, right? So if I would go back to Google and I would type in Cartagena hotel recommendations. It's not what I wanted. Cartagena hotel recommendations, then I would add senior at the end of it because you said that they are someone that they're older and they want to stay away from like the party city, which who doesn't, right? So if I'm scrolling down, this is dated 2017. So could I look in there? Yes. Am I going to? No, I want something more recent, right? So I'm going to look at TripAdvisor 2023, 10 best. And the nice thing I like about TripAdvisor, you guys, is you can at least get an idea of the hotel's vibe on here by clicking on it and like searching. So All right, so if I'm gonna just choose this random hotel. All right. You could search the dates on here if you wanted. So let's just do that. Ah. I'm not going to mess around with the rooms. Again, I'm just trying to get a good understanding of the vibe. All right, so I'm going to click on the hotel, not view deal, because I want to see the reviews. So if I scroll down, again, prices don't matter right now. I'm not looking at the about section. I want to go until there's a section where I can actually type in a keyword. And I think it's coming up. You could read this. Again, I would not do that off the bat. I would search for that search bar. So there's that search bar. I think they switched it up. Everything's switching with AI. Let me see if I can do Control F and no. All right. Well, you might have to do a little bit more digging until I could figure it out, but look at the property amenities and like the features and stuff based on like what your clients tell you, if that's in alignment. You can see that these are like located in this area compared to like other places, right? So again, based on research, you can see if this is a little bit of a more secluded area or if they need to go somewhere else, right? For time purposes, I'm not going to do that, but at least you guys can get an idea of like how I would at least do the initial research. My computer gets glitchy when I screen record and share. So that's why it slows down. But does that kind of give you a better idea, Rena, of like how to at least get started and like the steps to take?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
It's a lot of help.
Okay, good. Um, so yeah, essentially that's just how I would do my initial research with multi-city. Again, to recap that, I would go into Google Flights. I would play around with the long haul flight first, see what's the cheapest, and then also has nonstop. And then I would probably also play around with the cities flying home long haul first, do it a little bit different than how I did it on here, because you could see that Cartagena had a nonstop going in and not out, which is why I think it would be beneficial to reverse them given the situation. That's just how I mentally think. And then as far as the hotels go, especially if it's someone that is not based in the US, downtown travel. So you guys are going to want to make sure you have access to this site. And one thing I will point out is you need to make sure it's approved for ticketing. This one does have a little bit more of a step-by-step process than some of the others. Again, the prices that you see on here. All right. So say we choose this room. Okay. I'm going to just randomly choose a room so we can kind of talk a little bit about the wholesale supplier rate and just briefly touch on that with wholesalers. I have a separate training on that, so I'm not going to really deep dive, but I'm going to at least show you in this scenario, like what I would do. All right. So with downtown travel, you're going to want to not look at the non-refundable because that requires you to Zelle the company. So say this is the room I want to book. All right. I just want to see green. I don't really care what it says under, but okay, green. Say that's the one that my client wants. Then I'm going to type in these details for each room, right? This is for like 4 rooms, how much it is in totality. So what I would do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in that hotel in Expedia. So yes, this is a 3-star hotel, but you have room to play. So be your best judge. Because I think you could still get them a nicer hotel. But again, for time purposes, this is what I'm going to do. I need to do an exact comparison. And what exact means is like, I need to make sure the dates align exactly. And I'll get into the reasoning in a minute. But I want 4 rooms. Now this is Colombia, so I don't think the number of adults matters because it's not an all-inclusive, but still, I would try and align everything. And then when I hit search, I want to see what the price is on Expedia for that same room. Because my wholesale supplier rate or the room that I have to play around with you guys is the difference between Expedia and downtown travel. So if we scroll down quickly to the room types, which is coming up. All right, so I'm going to go back to downtown travel and see what was that room that I chose. All right, so it's going to be 3 standard double rooms with breakfast included. So I'm going to go back. They're sold out. So this is a huge advantage. I would go off of the price that's available then, which is $12.19. So if I take $12.19 minus, I want to click book because I want to see with taxes. So we're going to do the math. $12.19 minus $691.31. What's our total?
$527.69.
Okay, so let's say 528. You have a difference of 528 to work with, meaning because your room is sold out, I would only really shave off that $28 and I would mark it up $500 for yourself. And again, there's a separate training on how to do this. And I'll point you in that direction, but I just want you to keep that in the back of your head. Does that part make sense at least?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So that's instant commission right there, you guys. $500 for just one hotel, right? They pay the $691.31. That goes to downtown travel. Rena gets to keep $500 just for this hotel today. Now, one thing you guys do also need to be mindful of if you do use a wholesaler, you need to make sure that the client can pay in full today. So there are other ways around it that I'm not going to cover right now. It'll confuse everyone, but you always want to ask your client up front, if I find you a good deal, are you in a position to book it today in totality, right? Total amount. But that's one hotel, right? $500. Imagine if she did that with all 3 hotels and she was able to get that $500 difference for those 3 hotels. That's $1,500, not including her travel planning rate if she does decide to do one. So if it was me, right, and I have my $500 planning rate, that's a $2,000 instant commission check for me right there today in my pocket. So that's how you guys can really capitalize, is by using wholesalers. It's not always going to work, but multi-city, it's a huge advantage because you can do that stuff. And in fact, you kind of have to do it this way, especially if the person does not live in the US. I'm working with someone that lives in Mexico right now. She's looking to go to Australia, same scenario. But they do accept, you're going to just change this info to, you would change it to Guatemala. And just make sure you have what you need to book that. So does that make sense?